Hello, welcome to episode 148 of We Have Issues. I'm Anthony.
And I am Stevie Wildcard.
And every week, Stevie Wildcard and I get together and we do our best to take all of the various issues that life throws our way, and we just basically shoot fireworks into their mouth and celebrate our independence as we get something done. Steven,
some of us shoot fireworks. Snakes and sparklers are really the only ones I like, so I kind of just like aggressively send a snake at my issues.
Yeah, I mean that's what they get. I mean, it's horrible. It's just. I mean, if you put them close enough, it's like, ooh, how big is this snake gonna get? I don't like.
Who knows?
Back up. I don't like this. I don't like this. We just like keep them in place and we're like, ooh, it's getting close.
It's so unpredictable.
It's just so tiny. But what we really do is every week we do our best to overcome our various issues and try to get something creative done in the world. Most recently, we've been working on a supernatural action horror comedy comic book called Deathless. Steven, every week we talk about what we were trying to do this week and like how we did in the very beginning of our show. Then we get into like some like what got in the way, what distracted us, and then we do some other stuff. Steve, I need to know, because every week you do this to us. Every week you're like, I'm gonna do 3 pages or I'm gonna do 2 pages, and then you're like, I want you to call me a failure in front of everyone. And I'm like, I feel like you're into it. I feel like this is a kink unlocked situation.
This is just a supreme kink. Yeah. No, dude, you know what it is? It is like lack of true foresight in how much time I actually have. Like it is truly just like this blind, like
I overestimate the amount of time I have, and I
before I know it, it's Tuesday, and I'm like, holy shit, that went fast. Like,
and like the funniest thing about like time, just using your time wisely, like is when you lose a day, it's a day gone.
It's a day gone.
I lost a day this week to allergies, and I was like, ooh, okay, well, like no matter how I manage my time now, I lost an entire day of productivity. I did nothing that day because my face was trying to not be my face any longer. I didn't even have the pleasure of being John Travolta or Nick Cage or one of the two, like John Cage or Nick Travolta. Like I get none of the face.
Just off. A Florida dude, just in horrible allergy shocks.
So bad. But yeah, so like no matter how you try to manage your time, if you have something that pops up, or if something consumes more of a day than you would have expected or could have predicted, it's just like, how are you supposed to come back from that? And it's really hard to manage. That being said, Steven, so how did you do? What happened?
I completely bunked it. I did finish the one page that I did not finish.
Bunked it.
Bunked it. It's a softer blow. It's a softer blow. It
doesn't feel quite as bad, Steven, but I do feel like it's really, you bunked it.
But we are really, 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 really close. So like it's bad, but not horrible. So, but yeah, I didn't get nearly as much as I wanted to get done. Like it's 4th of July weekend, and both my wife and I have divorced families. So there is just a lot of separate celebrations.
It's like the 16th of July. Like you just keep going.
It's like not even. How many hamburgers do you want me to eat?
You get a hamburger. You get hamburger. You get hamburger. Like
it really bothered me. That show is priceless, by the way. But anyways, yeah, so like just like whenever my weekend gets crushed is usually when I lack the most progression, because if I can get like a good Friday evening into half of a Saturday, I get like a lot done. But if something like hiccups those 2 days, it's just not good. Like that's basically where I'm at when it comes to this. Is unfortunately, it's just tough to make up for it when I lose those days. And whenever there's a holiday, that's just what happens. It just crushes those days. So
I equally like bunked it. Bunked it.
It's soft, guys. We say bunked it from now on. Okay, we're not punishing you.
It up. We're bunker buddies is what we are, Steven. Bunker buddies is what we call this from now on. Together with our heads in the sand like ostriches in our bunker of failure. But this week Steven, I had, and you've known me for a long time, so you've seen my allergy situation when it flares up and like what can happen. I had one of my days. So what happens to me, for those of you who don't suffer from these sort of ailments, what happens to me is I wake up and I think, oh, my nose is a little worse than usual. Okay, I'm gonna take a shower and hope my congestion clears out a little, because that's a thing that some of us think, especially living in places like Florida, and we deal with that stuff. So I take my shower, and then after my shower, I'm like, oh wait, it's worse. Everything's worse. My whole life is worse, and my brain is trying to drip out of all the orifices. I have no brain, and I can't breathe right.
It's goop.
It's all just goop. I have no thoughts, no thought. My only thought is, how do I stop the goop? I need to keep the goop.
When you're talking, it's like breathy, like you have to like take
so
breaths in between words because it's like the congestion's like in a weird spot.
yeah, I mean, well, and it's such a weird thing because sometimes when you get congested, right? Like if I get congested, I'm like, ooh, there's just I get this headache and it's bad and I'm stuffy. But when I get allergies really bad, I get that stuffy pain, but I'm dripping constantly.
Just pouring.
Yeah. So, and it's like it's undammable. Like it is. You can't stop it. It's.
And then what happens when it's leaking like that? And you stuff because like I've had that at work. I'm literally like leaning over pavers and hitting them, and it's just dripping.
Yes,
the nose gets raw, and
that's where I am right now. I don't know how well you can see it in the light, but
it hurts so bad to even touch it.
Oh, it's so frustrating, and like it starts like peeling, and I'm like, ooh, everyone's gonna think I'm a lizard person. And that's the thing that like some people think exists in the world, and they're gonna see.
You're just going Team Zuck right off rip.
Today,
huh?
yeah. Today I met an Illuminati lizard, and I'm like, yes, you did. And I was working retail. Look at that, and I have a tail. Retail. Ooh, there's something there. We'll get.
There is something. There.
Steven, speaking of that, and speaking of weird conspiracies and stuff. Okay, so if you're new to our show, we've done the thing. We talked about all of the productivity stuff that we're going to talk about. The rest of our show is we talk about things that broke our brains and distracted us throughout the week, and then we talk about a little bit about like what we're going to do in the future. This week, Steven, I saw. Now here's the thing: if I see something like once, I kind of like ignore it. And I'm like, it's no big deal. If I see something like twice, I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna like see what this is about. You know, I'm like,
there's a pattern for
it's a pattern going on. You know, if I see something like 3 times, I'm like, okay, why is everyone obsessed with this? I gotta know more. You know, like I hate this. I wish I didn't. You know, I don't want to care. I saw a thing, Steven. I saw a thing. How familiar are you with Fruit of the Loom, Steven?
Well, I do know that we hopped universes at some point, and there is no cornucopia. I know that much about Fruit of the Loom.
Okay, now that's what I was getting at. Okay, so here's the thing. So I exist in a world in which
I remember a lot of cornucopias.
What was that?
I remember cornucopia.
Okay, do you?
I do.
Okay, so I think people like Steven,
people like idiot,
this complete idiot. No, this moron.
this bunking failure over here.
No, but so I'll tell you like my experience with it, right? Is I know I have a pretty good memory, right? And I think most of us have a pretty good memory for some things, you know, like randomly. It's like, you know, like we all have like our specialties and stuff. We know how many toothpicks drop, or we can say every line in every like, you know, Deer Hunter song or whatever, you know, like we can quote an entire Jim Carrey movie or whatever it is. And like some things just click, and some things like we like have really, you know, really great memories for. I do think every one of us overestimates our memory with some things, you know,
especially with logos and smaller things like that are insignificant, right?
Yes, and like for me, like my experience with that situation was I read that. So I read someone was like, oh, we must have jumped universes because like there used to be a cornucopia in the Fruit of the Loom. And my thought, and this is how I experienced it. My thought was, I can imagine that. I can picture it, but I'm also a person who can picture things in their brain. You know, like I can imagine things. So if you tell me that, I know what that looks like. I've seen one somewhere every Thanksgiving for 30 whatever years, you know? So like I can imagine when you picture a cornucopia horned thing, you know, a fruit of plenty or whatever, like, you know, you picture it with fruits and vegetables and stuff. So naturally, if you're thinking of a logo that would have fruits and stuff, it's easy to picture what it would.
So basically, we're all just marketing geniuses that should have pitched this logo idea long ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, you're not wrong. Do you know what I think the fruit might come from though? Is remember the commercial where the people were in the fruit costumes for Fruit of the Loom? Yeah. And I'm wondering if like what you're saying, like the collective of like the idea of the Fruit of the Loom, like the fruits gathered together. Yeah, and the cornucopia.
Well, and I think that's what I think what happens a lot of the time is we don't have a strong stored memory of the thing. So when we recall it, it's just kind of like picture. It's like, you know, like pixels floating in the air, like Mike TV putting himself together. And if anyone suggests, hey, wasn't there a cornucopia in there? It's very easy for your brain to fill in those gaps and you know, and create those pictures. And then what happens, of course, is you reinforce that when someone else goes, I also remember that. And you're like, okay, well, now you have two people who are both not remembering something, but filling in these gaps and then reinforcing this false memory on each other to the extent that they're going to be backed up. And now they're going to defend their memory as if it's true because it's the thing they believe, because it is the memory that they've reinforced, not that it's necessarily the memory that was actual that they had. And
that makes sense.
So I was like, it's like, yeah. So, well, because, okay. And here's the thing, dude, I love the idea. I've made the, like, not even just joke. I've said flat out on this podcast that I have died several times and jumped different realities. I'm okay with this. Let's do it. What I don't like is like when people are like, oh, this is evidence of this because of okay, so I went down the rabbit hole a little bit of this, right? So when you look up this situation, you can find that one of, I think it was like the first trademark paper that they tried to file through that got canceled, they put cornucopia and fruit of plenty on the labeling category list.
Okay.
And so people were using that as evidence of like, look, this is residue from the previous, universe that we lived in and all this. And then it's like the way you can easily rationalize that is like, okay, well, the way those categories work is they want you to be able to find any logo with fruit and that sort of stuff. And if you're looking for a logo with fruit, you won't always need a cornucopia, but maybe you type in cornucopia because it always produces a logo with fruit.
Yes.
So like, yeah, so even if your logo doesn't have the cornucopia, if it has a bunch of fruit and vegetables, you might put cornucopia so people looking for fruit can find it. So it's like it's like saying it's like putting like animal and you put dog, but really what you're talking about is a wolf. So you're like dog, canine, and you just put like
wild.
Wild. You just like hashtag broad terms so people can narrow it down and find the thing that they're looking for. And I get, but people are
so the Fruit of the Loom one was like when I was like whatever about, but one that I can verifiably disagree with easily is Kazam Shazam situation. Like everyone knows Shaq was the genie. I don't know where the Sinbad thing came from, where he's a genie too. I'm pretty sure it's what you're saying. People never saw Kazam.
Yes.
And just knew Shaq or knew somebody was a genie. And then they're like, well, Sinbad was, but I personally remember First Kid. Yes. I remember a couple of Sinbad movies, but I do not remember a genie Sinbad movie.
First
House Guest and First Kid,
Jingle All the Way. Sinbad was everywhere in the 90s. He was everywhere on, like, he had his stand-up was everywhere. He was on like oh my god, was like so many TV shows at the time. Like every TV show, every movie, like he was all over the place. So it seems so simple that it was just one of those things where it was like people didn't actually see the movie. They were seeing a bunch of things and they just, you just picture that and you're like, hey,
I don't know how you mix up Sinbad and Shaq though.
Racism is
racism for real.
I have no idea how that happened, but
because like but maybe it's because like they didn't see Kazam, because like I saw that movie and I loved that movie. Like when I was a kid, it was like the funny, like
not to mention genie. Okay, so I just have so many questions about the people who are like, listen, it can't be my faulty memory or anything you just, but like when people are like, it's impossible that it's my faulty memory. What it definitely is we jumped realities and there are residual things. And I'm like, how is that the thing? Like, how do you not recognize that you could be imperfect? Like, that's all it is. It's just, hey, you could be imperfect, and what happens is other people are similarly imperfect. It's fine, we do that. Like, and like, you see a lot of people with the circular logic, like, oh yeah, well then why can numerous people have these same inaccuracies? I'm like, okay, well, the same thing that led you to inaccurately remember that there was a cornucopia in the Fruit of the Loom ad led the other people to believe that thing. Not necessarily that they heard it from someone else, but that they don't have a strong stored memory of this thing. And then when they think about it, they're like, yeah, that sounds about right if someone says it, and it's
if anything, the dude that's like adamant, like, no, there wasn't one, we should be trusting that guy because he remembers the logo and he's got the evidence to support his claim.
Yeah, so like, okay, so like the fun thing about it is, so then what happens is you have these things where it's like like someone made an album where it was like Flute of the Loom or something, or like it's something like Flute of the Loom, where it's a flute or whatever, and it's like a joke on Fruit of the Loom. And he's like, well, I designed this logo, and if Fruit of the Loom didn't have a cornucopia, why did I put that? And I'm just like, because you thought Fruit of the Loom had a cornucopia, so you were trying to copy this logo. Okay, show me the logo that you were trying to
Yeah,
reproduce.
this should be easy, right? You
This
should
isn't
have.
like, okay, so if we're suggesting that the logo did exist sometime and now they're trying, they what, they deleted every logo, or are we now in a different, we're actually in a different universe where they were capable of destroying the Fruit of the Loom logo on everything for some reason, but didn't change your memory of it?
Yeah,
Why?
you transition to a universe that erased your Photoshop file where you have the layer that you copied the Fruit of the
Exactly.
Loom logo onto,
Yeah.
but it didn't erase your memory.
But it didn't erase your memory. And it's just like, it seems so silly. And like, okay, so I was like, fine, Steven. So what I want to do is I would like, just for a second, let's see. Like, we don't have a lot of time. It's super late. It's 4th of July. But what I want to do is I want us to both just commit to I want to see we're doing this. We're going to say the Mandela effect is completely true, but I want to know why. Like, what is it, Steven? What, like,
so this is almost like a monster test where we kind of get to flesh yes. out the rules of its
flesh out the rules of Mandela effect. So we're monster testing Mandela effects.
Okay, so you ready? What happened?
Yes.
When Nelson Mandela was captured, he was actually he wasn't in prison. He was actually fortified with super time altering powers, becoming the supervillain Mandela. And what he does is throughout time, he just picks random bystanders on the road and just swaps them with their other universe bystander equivalent just to troll people. It has there is no greater good or greater.
I like that it's just like a neutral, like chaotic neutral.
It's a cat. He has no quarrel with any man. He just wants to really fuck with people in such a deep way that they can't explain it, and they look crazy trying to explain how they remember that damn cornucopia. And Sinbad was definitely a genie.
I love it. So what? I love it. I feel like that's what happens with these things, where it's like, since there is no definite what it was, like what they could be, they just spiral endlessly, and they're like, oh, whoever can come up with like the most like ridiculous and fun thing, we're just gonna go with that one, you know? And it's just because I'll tell you what I don't like about it. Like, first of all, I don't like the passionate aggression that happens when people are just like, no, I know for a fact that it was Berenstein. Now, here's the thing. That's the only one of all of the Mandela effects that I was like, that is weird, because I always heard Berenstein, but it's clearly written as Berenstain. And I'm like, why would anyone ever say Berenstein if it's Ain, obviously? You know, so I was like, that's a weird one to me, because I'm like, but that being said, I didn't really read those books as a kid, and I can tell you I didn't have a strong memory of them. But my
dad did crack, and he's the one that put the movie in the freaking VCR. Berenstein Bears,
exactly, and that's where I was getting at. I was going to say that we all had Steven's dad in our ears saying like, "Hey, you want to read them Berenstein Bears?"
I think you know what we're forgetting about is the generation that's most impacted by the Mandela effect is the millennial generation, correct? And possibly some of Gen Z. I think we're severely underestimating the potency of cocaine that our parents did in the 80s. Like, they were like just wackadoodling, and like, you know, maybe that really fragmented all of our memories simultaneously
into a different reality.
See, I think where Mandela the supervillain has messed up, and this is where he's realizing, is sometimes he's accidentally pulling from the same universe when he's swapping bodies. So when one of the loud people is like, no, there was a cornucopia, there's a sudden random bystander from the same universe that completely forgot about it and was like, oh yeah, there was. And Mandela's fucking with him over the Shazam Kazam thing. He doesn't even care about the cornucopia, but he's from the same universe.
That's a funny one. I wonder if there's anyone.
And then what happens is he goes, yeah, and then Shazam is a genie and it's Sinbad, and the guy that the cornucopia guy's like, Sure, that's that too. But the cornucopia thing is what matters. We're like,
yes, we're together in this. No, but I want to stay on that for a second, because and I'm so sorry, viewers and listeners, but like, I am very interested in this for a second. Steven, is anyone doing the Venn diagram math of these realities? Are there like relations, but is there a relationship between the people who believe in, Kazam and the people who believe in the Berenstein Bears? Is there a relationship between the Fruit Loops, like all, two O's versus the UI, versus the people who believe in Tiny Toons or, Looney Tunes? By the way, that's clearly what happened, right? Okay, so Looney Tunes was Looney, but with Tunes spelled Tunes.
Yes.
That's how it's spelled. I think, but everyone seems to, or a lot of people seem to be adamant that it was Toons for tunes. But
No,
it,
that was always Tunes because of the programming and everything, right?
yeah, but it seems to me that Tiny Toons was spelled Toons, and
Because it
people
was a
probably,
parody,
because it was,
right?
yeah, and I'm sure that people just kind of like combined those two and were just like, no, it was always Looney Tunes, and I was like, no, okay, well, that's probably what happened. Your brain, combined those things, you mixed it, you stored it improperly, and now it's there
Once
forever.
again, going back to the millennials causing all the Mandela problems.
Too much Mandela crack. You need to stop.
Why does Mandela hate millennials is
I
the real
don't
question.
understand it. That's God, gotta put that guy back in jail. Just
Mandela. He says it too whenever he like throws his magical powers, his universe swapping powers.
so I can imagine like, what if it's like a checkpoint situation, right? What if it's like every time I die, I do jump into a new reality, right? But I jump into a new reality and they try to find the one where my character would have lived. And unfortunately, I've run out of all of the ones where Berenstein Bears existed. And now it's Berenstain Bears. So my character can only continue in the reality in which it's Berenstain. So I'm like, crap. All right, I'm here. So I'm like, wait, wasn't it Berenstein? And everyone's like, no, it's Berenstain because we've been here the whole time. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. But I'm actually on the second level of life, not in a like,
Not in a new universe, basically.
yeah, exactly.
You're from the old universe.
Yeah. So, but I think what bothers me about it when I start going into this and like, there's like this like passionate ignorance and like this like arrogant, just anger that happens when people are just like, no, and I think it's because there's kind of like this superiority complex thing that happens with people where they're like, no, you just don't know because you're not from the other place,
Yes.
like where they're like,
they're creating an entire false reality to make their own importance boosted because
yes, and that drives me crazy because I'm like, okay, well, if anything, like, come on, guys, like, can't now I don't like what you're doing because you're creating this weird false dichotomy, and it just creates more. And we don't talk about like political issues and stuff, but it just creates more like us versus them. You're the other. We're special in some way that you're not. We're better than you, and you a way you can't be. And it's just like, can we stop doing that? Like, so you're so self-absorbed and obsessed with your own perfection, like your perceived perfection, that you can't just accept that you're not from a different reality from
you're
this.
just
like,
but I do think that's part of it. Like, I do think things like the Mandela effect, the hope and trust and belief that the megalodon is possibly still alive, that certain things exist.
Wait,
like,
Steven. The megalodon's definitely still out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's not go there. In this reality where it is Berenstain Bears, the megalodon is out there.
And it looks horribly CG'd in home videos. I get it. Like that's just how it looks in real life.
It should be like a Don Corleone, like mafioso. It's the Godfather, but it's the megalodon.
Megalodon.
I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Yeah, you're a giant shark. I'm not going near you.
Your teeth's like the size of my forearm or something.
I'm not messing with you at all.
I don't know the rules. I know you can eat a punch bug or something like that. There was something about the zoo books. But yeah, I do think there's just like this need to think that there's something more.
Yeah.
When there's so much on this earth already.
I know. I think
like why do you need this like secondary like mysticism to like really make you feel
and
like
Steven,
there's
like,
more? I don't get it.
For me, and I'll tell you, like I said, I love thinking about that stuff. Like
I do too. It's a fun.
I know you do too. That's why, like, we love talking about this stuff. I think what bothers me is the absolutism that happens, and like because. And that's what I said. Like when I was talking about the Fruit of the Loom thing, my first thought, and I'll finish that. Like I'll come back to this. So my first thought was, I don't know, but I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I don't remember a cornucopia, but I can picture a cornucopia, so I can't say confidently, right? So that's where I.
And what is weird is not only can you picture a cornucopia, but you can picture a cornucopia drawn in the style of Fruit of the Loom style. Yes. So that's why it really messed with you. But that's just how incredible the human brain is. Like you're a living computer. You want
to know something funny about memory, Steven? Like something so funny, right? So here's my brain, right? My brain's just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I can't say for certain. What I can say for certain, and I swear this is the funniest. Like it was literally, I'm sitting here reading this stuff. I'm reading about Fruit of the Loom. It's like 12:30 in the morning, right? It's midnight, right? And what my brain does recall is that I have in my possession a shirt from when I was in first grade. In Mrs. Rizzo's first grade class in Forest Hills Elementary School, I have a shirt that I made. And I remember that it's a Fruit of the Loom shirt. And I was like,
You can just disprove everything.
I was like, well, at the very least, no one's touched this shirt. At the very least, let's just pretend that people just eradicated all shirts from the 90s and just changed the logo since then. This shirt is unfazed by that, whatever that is. So I was like, and no, of course, this doesn't disprove if we are in the reality in which there just isn't a cornucopia, but there is a different reality. That's fine. But what it did for me was I was like, oh, I don't have a solid memory, but I do have this very specific memory of having this shirt that I got in first grade, and it happens to be in my son's room. So I went and I grabbed it. Okay, so I went in my son's room and I found this is my first grade shirt. And
it literally says the elementary school and everything, people.
And so I look and I was like, oh, and I'll tell you, and I like full sincerity, Stephen, I literally was sitting there like, please
let there be
fucking cornucopia. Like I
let
swear
it
to
be
God,
there,
dude. Because
vindication.
Yes, like Stephen, because, and I'll tell you, like, as much as I get like impassioned about like getting upset with people who are so positive about it, I would love to know that we jumped realities, or that there's some weird situation going on in which aliens are trying to mess with our brains, or like there's some AI being funneled through like nanobots or something weird. So the government's like, oh, let's see if we can make them think that Fruit Loops. So it's called Fruit Loops, but different spelling. Like, I would love it. I would love that. So I was like, please let there be a cornucopia on this thing. So I looked, and it's so funny. You can see my first grade teacher wrote ants on it and everything. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. Yep. But yeah, there's no cornucopia on this.
Nope, there's fruit though.
There's fruit. And so I was just like, and of course, and I will say that doesn't prove anything as far as there being a different reality or whatever people are from. All it suggests is that at the very least since the 90s, there has been, no cornucopia on the thing. I've yet to see any evidence of a cornucopia that wasn't produced specifically for this purpose. Like, yet. I would love that. So if you're out there and you're listening to this or watching this and you do find any kind of actual evidence, good, feel free to let us know. Send it to wehaveissuespod@gmail.com.
Send them cornucopias.
Send it. I did see, like I saw, and of course what's happening just with all of the photo editing software and with AI, it's so easy for people to fake things now. So I think it's gonna be really interesting going forward, where we're like, people will just be rewriting history and just creating memories for people.
Is this gonna get to the point where the only things it's basically gonna get so ridiculous that we're just not gonna believe anything again? It's gonna go right back to where we were prior to the internet. We're just gonna be like, yeah, whatever. Tall Tale McGee over here. Like, yeah, everything's fake now,
Dude, it's scary stuff. I don't know. I try to, like, as long as we have relationships with each other and with people, and we try to like live with the best intention we can, and understand like that we're not trying to hurt each other, and we're communicating like to at least the people close to us. That's all we can really do, because we can't really trust that the general public is going to always behave that way. So it's good, but it's a little scary. That being said, though, dude, it's so much fun to go through this. Like,
we need like a short movie where it's like the Mandela Effect, but it's like the most ridiculous one. And this guy just can't, like, no, they weren't. Like, no, they've always been leprechauns. No, the Disney show was called Gargoyles, and it was epic. They were giant statue demon monsters.
Monsters. Why would that be? Dude, you don't remember the rainbow? You don't remember the rainbow?
It was so happy and positive. Why would we put demons on the TV in the 90s?
5 gargoyles. They all wore the green gargoyle. It was 5 leprechauns. They all wore the leprechaun getup, but they had different masks on of different colors. There was an orange one, a purple one, a blue one, and a red one.
And they went by famous street names in Ireland. Everyone knows this. It was McGuinness, and there was like all the different leprechauns.
I like the Teenage Mutant Leprechaun.
But after 1,000 years, we live again. And it's just like, I know it's Scottish, so I maybe should have said Scottish, but it's bagpipes instead of like the church organ. Yeah.
Oh my god. We wish again.
We wish again.
You're not even making wishes, leprechauns. What are you doing? It was no. What you're thinking of is like the reboot from the like early 2000s. It was called Gargoyles. It was
Gold
Gargoyles.
Goyles.
It was they were leprechauns. They were obsessed with gold. They were Gargoyles.
Yes, and they would transform into golden leprechaun statues.
Yeah, golden leprechaun statues. Everybody.
And then every time when it was nighttime, they'd turn back into their leprechaun forms.
They grant wishes again. We know it. Like
there was Gold Lion.
Gold Lion.
Gold Lion. They're not even trying. It's just like
Gold Lion. Gold Lion got me good. Like, oh man, but I love that. I love the idea of like someone being so like. It would be funnier though if like then you cut back and there's one other meanwhile scene. It's like behind the curtain of reality, and God's just like, he fucking did it. He cracked the code.
He cracked the code. He knows that Leprechauns is not the show. Mandela, what have you been doing down there? I really, really, really wanted to mess with this guy specifically. And he loves gargoyles. He loves them so much. I wanted to take it from him.
Poor Mandela. He's taking a beating in this conversation, but he does not. It's not.
This is the fiction.
Mandela.
This is the fiction. Yeah, it's the fictional
Mandela.
Supervillain Mandela from the other universe. Obviously,
yeah, I mean, obviously, everybody knows that. But oh man, it's so funny. But I thank you all for tolerating Mandela effects. I think it was worth it. Thank you all for listening and watching. You're amazing.
And if this episode is offensive to you, this actually came from the other universe. So this isn't even the Stevie Wildcard and Anthony Lafuse that you love. It's not
completely. So Steven, there's one more thing I just want to talk about just real quick because it's so today we're recording this. It's late. It's 4th of July.
Steven, there's fireworks going off in the background.
There are so many fireworks going off right now. Steven, it's Atlas and I watched Independence Day tonight for the first time together, right? I've seen this movie a billion times, right?
That's a cool little ritual.
It is. It is. It's like, you know, I was like, I remember when I lived alone, I watched it like every year. I was like, hey, Independence Day. And like I was like, I love that movie. And I was, you know, I'd watch it. But since Atlas was born, I was like, I haven't watched it because I was like, it's a little like it's inappropriate, you know, up until a certain age.
The aliens are kind of spooky,
yeah.
Like,
there's
especially when they get the doctor, and
yes, and they have the thing, and they're saying no peace, like I want you to die, and like it's pretty scary. Also, humans dying all over the place in that movie. I just want to say really quick about that movie. Two things. One thing, it's over 2 hours long, and I never realized it. Like I watched it. Watching it with an 8-year-old, I was like, wow, this is a long movie. I never realized, you know, but like watching it as a kid and like, you know, like growing up as an adult, I was just, you know, it's
such an intense movie that you don't feel that 2 hours.
So what I'm getting at, Steven, is that movie touches on all the things that just make me cry in a movie. Like Steven, it has like touching dad moments. It has like the I'm proud of you moment, you know, where like the dad is proud of the son finally, and like it has the like underdog character who like uses like what his strengths are to like do something better for the world and for people and himself, you know, and just like grow. And it's just it has like the relationships, you know, situation where it's like the unlikely scenario of these people getting together, but they overcome great odds. You know, it has like all of these like big tropes, but like the ones that like specifically like tug at my heart.
The ones that hurt, like Randy Quaid, right? Like his situation.
And like that situation where it's like you have a tough relationship with your dad. He has issues. You have issues with him. It doesn't, you know, you're not really seeing eye to eye, but then you see him find his potential while meeting his end. And it's like, oh my God, like what is this?
Intense.
Like, and then of course there is the like incomparable speech from you know, Bill Pullman, you know, or not from Bill Pullman, but performed by Bill Pullman in the movie. It was just like I love it so much because he's just like any other, like in real life, they're like, okay, you're gonna have to go and like pump these people up. We have these speech writers, they're gonna give you this, you know, you're gonna, or the president or whoever it is will be like, I'm gonna write this like, you know, touching speech and go and read it. He literally walks out there and he's like, they look scared. They're young. They look scared. Give me that. And he's just like, we will not go quietly into the night. You know, and just like, this is amazing. You know,
yeah, for sure.
And I was just like welling up a little, and I was just like, oh my God, we can all work together and do things.
Yeah,
it doesn't
for
have
sure.
To negative. And like, I don't like, I wish I like it. I mean, it says a lot about like, at least I'll say it says a lot about my perception of the world at large when like stuff like that really gets to me, because I'm just like, oh man, people are coming together and positive way for once, and I was like, oh, it's a community and I like that. But like, oh man, it got me so good. And I'm sitting next to my son just like, yeah, sometimes dad does this, it's okay.
It's okay. Sometimes it happens, bro. Catches you off guard.
Yeah,
though, like in retrospect, the 90s, man, like we really did kind of have, like, at least as kids, we really did have like this perspective that like evil big corporations were the bad. We really had the perspective we should have, which is corporation people bad.
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat fighting this, you know what I'm saying? And then something happened over time.
Yeah. Well,
people just continue to be shitheads, really, is what it is. And
I think we took it too far with Fight Club, and then the corporations were like, we're the ones paying for these fucking movies. And they were like, we're not gonna let you do this anymore. No more. No, corporation's good. You're bad. I'm like, oh man, okay, we're gonna try to make RoboCop again. Yeah, but it's not gonna be as good. Okay, fine.
We're gonna limit your potential.
We're gonna make Disney more powerful than ever. They are the corporation. Good luck. Any message they have is going to have to be.
What if I told you that by the time we were done with them, you would hate comic book movies? You would hate them.
You're going to hate comic book movies and comic books and everyone who talks about comic books and everyone who.
There is no way someone could have flown back to 2012 Steven, just riding that high of watching the Avengers and been like, guess what? In the future, they cover Thanos. They cover freaking Kang the Destroyer. Really? And you're going to hate it. You're going to hate every second of it. It's going to be so slow after the whole Thanos thing. It's just going to be not what you want. It's going to be like, I don't actually hate it, but you get where I'm
getting. I know what you mean. I feel the same way. Like and I don't know, everyone has, their different theories or opinions or whatever of like the superhero movies. I guess now we're in our superhero movie segment, but like no, I'm with you. Like I watched the new Flash movie, and I was kind of already dragging my feet to go see it only because of the whole like Ezra Miller drama and all that stuff, and like the fact that like the universe doesn't matter, like their universe doesn't matter anymore. So it's just like this like apathy that washed over me. Where I was like,
I think they are severely underestimating like how much people like were pretty like repulsed by his behavior and how he was treating people over and over again. Like just because you stop covering it in the news doesn't mean people forget that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I watched a couple of his videos and I was like, this is unacceptable and I don't love it. And I like and I wish I would like, and sometimes it's like I want to be forgiving and I want to understand like, okay, well, it's not for me to judge this person or whatever, but it just seemed like it was so much and they were so in our face with all of like the drama for so long, and I was just like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Because now this universe doesn't matter. It's all being like washed over anyway. Why are we releasing this movie? Oh, because you spent a lot of money on it and you don't know what else to do. Okay, then why didn't you release Batwoman and all the, and all the other movies that you were? It's also silly. And like the nostalgia of like Keaton's Batman being in it, like was enough to make me want to like see it, but I was just like, I don't really care. I wish I cared more about it.
Instead of making Flash, they should have just scrapped it halfway through and made Batman Beyond with Keaton. Is what they should have done.
I would have been like, I think they didn't do that because they were just like, oh yeah, what if it was successful? I think they were like, this one's not going to be that successful, but it's going to be successful enough to either make money or like write off some things, But I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't have any like strong theories on it. I know it was basically like, they tried really hard to push it, but with all of the drama and stuff, it was never going to do very well. It just wasn't. Like we all kind of lost interest, and like I'm really hopeful for the James Gunn DC universe. Like I want to see what he does. I'm never going to be one of those people who like craps on things before they exist. I want to see, I want to see what he does. And I love James Gunn. I
mean, the Guardians movies are great.
Oh my God. Yeah.
His version, his Suicide Squad is great.
Yeah. I mean, people like to like crap on like his comedy stuff and like act. I don't know, like, but he's a writer and he has written, like, if you ever watched Romeo and Juliet, he wrote like a whole movie in iambic pentameter. Like he wrote Scooby-Doo movies, and he wrote like, he can write anything. Like he has a pretty broad range and he's capable of a lot of things, just like most other writers who are doing what they, doing their best. And not only is he doing his best, but like the same way that you can put like a professional, like an actor in the gym to professionally become bulky. And, like, hey, you're going to go look like Superman in 6 months. Okay, cool. Hey, James Gunn, go in your cave and come out with a good Superman movie. cool. If I don't have to go to work, I don't have to deal with any other stresses, I can go and do that. I can write a crappy first draft and then a better second draft and a better third draft and come out eventually with a decent movie. And I trust that James Gunn can do it. He's totally capable of it, you know?
And like a lot of their grief comes from like the Guardians, like, oh, it's so goofy at times. But like, I'm sorry, even the people that say it's goofy, I know your ass cried when Yondu died. I know in Guardians 2, when that sequence happened, I know damn well you were crying, whether it was goofy earlier in the movie or not. Like,
no, I love it.
He balances it well. Like
his tonal balance is
you need the highs with the lows. Yeah. Like you're not going to experience that death at its most tragic moment without experiencing like all the shakiness that comes in between and all the happiness that's before it. Like, I mean, you need all of that. It all needs to be there. It's a good balance, in my opinion.
Agree,
but
I agree. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I like, I've seen a lot of people who are still just like, Snyder. And it's just like, I feel like, I mean, it extends into politics and everything else, but like and like the Mandela effect and everything. Like people will hold so strongly to this reality that this potential reality that they've created in their head that could possibly exist, rather than acknowledging like the beauty that exists in the one that they have, or the potential that exists in the one that they're in. You know, or it's just like there is great, incredible potential in what James Gunn is about to do. We don't know. It could be the coolest thing ever. When people saw Heath Ledger as the Joker, they said a bunch of bullshit, and it's gonna keep happening. People don't have great imaginations for other people's projects, you know. Like if you know, and that's fine, we're not supposed to, but and like, yeah, you're entitled to opinions, go ahead, but like it's useless to sit there and live in the negativity of, you know, just hating someone's potential reality rather than acknowledging like, hey, I'm gonna root for you and hope for the best, and I hope you make a Superman movie that I'm gonna freaking love, and I hope you like, I think you might, you know. So that's where I am with it.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. So
and the Snyderverse people are probably all like, well, you see, it worked for Sonic fans. They bitched about Sonic, but it's like, and then it just cuts back to Warner Brothers, like, see what you did? See what you did? You used that stupid marketing campaign. You had the good Sonic from the start. You used this market, and now they think they can get their Snyderverse. They're not getting their Snyderverse. Like, just like they were always going to get the good Sonic.
Man, I will. If anyone out there has a picture of the Ugly Tales, let me know. I want to see Ugly Tales. I've never seen Ugly Tales. If there were like, okay, it's the same movie, which means they were going to do the same thing.
Means that we need style versions of the different characters in it that look like Sonic, right?
Yep. Well, that's the thing, is at the end of the first Sonic movie, they tag it with Tails shows up. And that shows up in the second movie. So you know it was always planned. It was a thing they were going to do. They're like, hey, we're going to tease the next movie at the end. Which means they finished that movie. They had to have made that scene with Tails, right?
And even if they didn't, they at least needed the design for Tails to fit the style.
That's right.
Because they drew Sonic different, so they at least would have needed to have a design for Tails.
Yeah.
So I want some time-stamped Tails designs for that movie. I want justice.
I kind of just want them to release the Ugly Sonic movie. I don't know why they wouldn't. It's so funny. Like that would like, why wouldn't they have done that? Hey, here's the first draft, or just the DVD.
They don't got it.
They don't got it. It doesn't exist. It was just a trailer the whole time. It had to be, right? Like I don't know, like stuff like that drives me crazy, because I'm like, I don't like the manipulation for like just the money, you know. Like, can we stop? Can we not do that? You know, like we lie, people lie enough to, you know, for various reasons. Like, just stop. But anyway, Steven, okay, so we've talked about various universes and potential realities and the way, you know, the future is going to go for other people. At the end of every show, we talk about how our future is going to go and what our potential reality is. So this week, what are you going to do?
This week looks pretty decent and open for the weekend. So I'm going to push through. And like I said, I still have some roughs I can work on. So I'm going to try to get two, I'm going to say 2 pages safe. So that way you don't have to call me a failure.
Steven, I don't want to call you a failure ever again.
It's not his fault, people.
I love you so much, so much. But you bunk it up every week, Steven.
Bunk it
louder.
Bunk it louder. Black Eyed Peas episode 2, people. we need them Black Eyed Peas cult views is what we need.
Oh my god. So this week I am going to color. I'm going to say I think I have 3 pages left to do to be caught up with what you've given me. And I'm gonna finish them because I have off tomorrow, and Atlas goes with his mom. So and then I am off tomorrow. I'm gonna finish it, and then Thursday I get off work pretty early, and I'm just gonna work as hard as I can to finish it. And I have to do a little bit of other stuff. Like I have to write a song for Critically Stupid, and I have to do my movie thing on Thursday night. But that's about it, So
awesome.
Yeah. So
I'll upload page 18 as a TIFF file too.
Awesome.
To make sure you have it.
Heck yeah, dude. Right? But thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making it this far in the episode. If you somehow made it this far in the episode and you're not subscribed to the podcast, please hit the little button that's like in this area, or just hit subscribe however you can. Also hit the like button. It totally helps us out, and like whenever I do look at the analytics, it lets me feel much better about my life, because the people who don't like it will definitely hit the dislike button, and they don't make it this far. No, they never make it this far in the episode. I can see the analytics. They're like, oh, yeah, look, they made it 0.0 seconds, and they hit that button because they hate me. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Like, I bunked up your life somehow. But, like, can we like, move on? But, yeah, so thank you. Thank you all. Tell your friends, tell your grandparents, tell your aunts, your uncles, tell everyone you would want in Thanksgiving and also wouldn't want at your Thanksgiving. Just make us, like, torture your relatives, torture your enemies. I want you to go out there. 4th of July, people are going to light off fireworks for the next 3 weeks. Go outside, blast our podcast in your car as loud as you can. We are your fireworks now.
We are your fireworks now.
But
tell them about our Mandela Effect opposite. Like, find the person that supports the Mandela Effect the most and show them this episode so they just rain on it.
Even what if it's Wendella? Like, that's the evil Mandela. Like, you have Wario, it's a Wendella.
He's even hinting at it in the whole episode. He's wearing the Wendella hat. It's a Wario hat, not in my universe, buddy.
Wendella's always been a thing. The Wendello, the Wendella.
The Wendello, it's like a Wendigo, but
it's the Wendello. He just goes from universe to universe and just
he just yells.
What are you doing? I'm ruining everything. Yes, you are.
I've been cursed. Cursed with the need to troll.
but thank you all. Thank you for tolerating our ridiculousness and being a part of this colony. It really means everything to us that you're here for us, supporting us. Let us know if you have a book, if you have anything that you would like us to talk about in the show. Let us know if you have any questions. Find us on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you can. All the links are below. But just know that we appreciate you and we love you and we are so thankful for you. We hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Stevie Wildcard.
This has been We Have Issues.
Boom.
Oh, God. Here we go. We are recording super late. It is 4th of July, 2023. We got this. All right, here comes Steven. We're going fresh out of the gate. We got this.
We got this.
Look at Steven. Just comes prepared. Just as sexy as
I'm
ever.
ready.
He's like, listen, we have to be as straight and like perfect and concise as possible. We need to keep this going. How can I throw chaos into this? Wah!
Wah! And it's not at all there. Ladies and gentlemen, this hat is not here because I have a horrible pimple scar on my forehead that I scratched too many times. That's not why this is here at all. It's not to cover my meth-looking scar.
Steven, I have never in my entire life had a pimple that I let live its full existence. Like, I've like the life expectancy of a pimple on my face is as soon as I see it, it's dead. And I like, it shouldn't be, because I'm like, I'm like, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna terminate this pimple. I am literally like sent back in time to kill the John Connors before they're like
just asking every pimple if it's Sarah Connor.
Exactly, is your name Sarah Connor? Like, I squish those pimples. I will. I mean, what I'm saying is, I'm the Skynet of my face, and that's why I have random. I've the apocalypse of
sometimes like when Tina is like, because Tina is one of those that loves to pop pimples. Sometimes her nail just pulls a little too much skin, and then it looks like I do meth, so I'm just going to cover that little wound up. It should heal by next week.
Does Tina
allegedly
TikTok? Like, come on. She is. I mean, allegedly. I know. Like, I've seen Steven's head, and I can tell you, just completely honestly, with no lies whatsoever, there is no pimple on his head.
There's nothing.
Really good.
I lift the hat, and blood just pours out of it.
You hear the pimple screaming in the darkness. I had a family.